Hi everyone. In today's video, it's going to be a bit different than most of the videos that we do on my channel. This video is inspired by Day 9 Daily 100, which some of you may have seen. It's a popular Day 9 video where he sort of talks about his life and his career through StarCraft and some of the things that influenced him along the way. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that much about me. A lot of people think I started with netplay, or that I was a doc kid, or that I was an Evo kid, and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people think I'm new school, and I thought it was kind of funny because at Smash World Tour, one of the most recent big tournaments that happened, they had a little tidbit on there about when you started playing, and I think I was the earliest player at 2003 is when I considered my actual competitive career starting. And I feel like there's a lot of history within my career, and I think it would be interesting to share that with you guys, and hopefully comforting for you guys who are on your own competitive journeys that want to know that it's possible to become a top 15 player and still growing in one of the hardest esports in the world while having a lot of hard times in between all the great times. With all that being said, let's start from the beginning. So in Christmas of 2001, some of my older fans might recall this Christmas as being a pretty great one because the Nintendo GameCube was out and my parents got me a GameCube, a CRT, and a copy of Melee for Christmas, which is some of the happiest I've ever been. And I remember immediately plugging it in and playing a game with my brother. It was instantly a connection. I had played a lot of video games because my brother was 12 years older than me. And so he was into a lot of older video game systems and stuff like that, and so even when I was like 3 or 4, I was like messing around with video games or whatever. And as we unlocked the characters, of course, I started to get a feel for all the different characters, and I initially landed on Ganondorf and Falco, and most people know I play Falco even to this day. And so that was maybe one of the most influential and important days of my life was Christmas of 2001. Pretty crazy. So my brother and I and some of his older friends played the game essentially every day. We'd have people over, we would just run sets with everybody, we would play for hours every single day. We just knew Melee was the game. We didn't know about any videos of it because there wasn't anything to watch it on. We didn't know about any advanced techniques. All we knew is that the game was fun and it was a fighting game, so it was competitive. And so we actually created a crew named the Invincibles, which is maybe the dumbest thing ever, but that was our crew. And my brother put in a lot of work. He put our phone number down on like a flyer, and he would post it at local colleges and just like in parks and stuff, and it was like, if you think you can beat us at Smash Bros, like give us a call. And we sort of had this hierarchy of like skills in the crew. My brother was the best. I at the time was seen as like the second or the third best. And we met a lot of people through that. We went to their houses, they came to ours, they would challenge us. It was a lot of fun. So we had a really good time with that. And of course, like back in the day, crews was just a thing. A lot of people know about like H2YL and stuff like that, Chillin's old crew with Chew and all that. And my tag, by the way, at the time was Ultra Satanicus, which was a tag that was given to me by my brother because it was funny. I was like a little like 6, 7, 8-year-old kid with a little ginger bowl cut, and you know, people hear Ultra Satanicus and you're expecting a big Ganon player with like spiked bracelets on, you know, mascara, fucking eyeshadow ready to fuck you up. But no, it was me, little kid, and I was pretty good at the game for being a casual, at least. And we thought that we were the best in the world at the time. So my brother hears about a large, major-ish tournament happening in Chicago, which is only a couple hours away from where I lived at the time. So he goes down, and I can't. I was 8 years old at the time. This is in 2003. He hears about this tournament. I have school and stuff. I'm like an 8-year-old. So he goes down with one of his friends, and they go to like a house tournament the day before. People still do this. If there's like a large tournament happening, a lot of times it's going to be like a kind of a smaller local the day before with a lot of people that come in. And my brother was at this house tournament and met tons of pros, actually met Chew there, and very quickly found out that we were not as good as we thought we were. He actually ended up losing to Chew playing Sheik with one hand. That was actually something that Chew used to do back in the day, was beat people with one hand. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but apparently that was a thing. So keep in mind, there's no cell phones or anything at the time, really. So I'm so excited for my brother to come back home with all the money, telling me that he's the best player in the world. And he pulls up the driveway. I run up to him like, Cody, how'd the tournament go? He's like, oh, we didn't enter the tournament. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, we didn't have a shot. It wasn't wasn't even close. We are so bad at the game. You don't even know. Like, you don't even know. The things that I saw made no sense, is what he's telling me. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, you whoop everybody that you play. Everybody in our local town. Everybody that responds to a flyer thinking they can beat you. They can't. And of course, my perception of the world was so small at the time. I figured if you're the best in the town, you must be the best in the world. So my brother had met a few people at this tournament and had convinced them to come over to our house to teach us what the heck was going on. And these people, who I will always remember very fondly, are Eddie, the Ganon main, and Tink. And these people honestly put me down a path that I followed all the way to where I am now. So they came over to our house, and they were old school pros, and they taught us about wave dashing, pillar comboing, L canceling, wave landing, all that stuff. And that was so awesome of them to come and do that, especially I was like a little kid. I remember I like hit a pillar combo, like a little one, like down air to shine. I realized that was like a combo, and they were like, look, he's doing it. And I was like, I'm doing it. But it was really, really cool. Since that moment, we had just practiced every day. We're practicing all the time. We're learning advanced techniques, learning about how to slightly do it better. I used to wave shine a peach back and forth across FD and Dreamland all the time in order to like practice my tech skill and all that. And it was awesome. We improved at the game. I used to do home run contests. I was able to do the Ganondorf like 9,999 glitch where they like literally the sandbag sinks into the floor or whatever. I was able to do that when I was like 8 or 9. So we put a lot of work in, and we went to our first real tournament, or what I consider my first tournament that I went to, which was an anime convention at a local college called JFAX, and they had a Melee tournament there. And my brother and I went, and it was a great time, but obviously I'm really nervous. I'm like this little kid in this giant anime convention. Everybody else who's signed up for the tournament is much older than me, but my brother and I end up getting first and second. I could never beat my brother, by the way. He was an Ice Climbers and Peach dual main, you know, which was an odd combination looking back at it, but I mean, it worked for him. And I couldn't ever beat those two characters of his. God, it took me years to even remotely like take friendlies off him or whatever, even when I got good at pillar comboing and all that kind of stuff. But we got first and second at the tournament. It was so cool. Some people reached out to us. They wanted to start playing too. It just felt like, you know, the grassroots community of Melee. It was awesome. And, you know, getting second and first, I think we won doubles too. It was like, whoa, we're like improving and becoming good at this game. It was so sick. And, you know, eventually my brother and I ended up discovering Smashboards, which was a gigantic influence on my knowledge of the game. A lot of people know me as an analytical person, and it really is Smashboards that started that whole thing. I can't remember exactly what year we got on there, so I'm not exactly sure when the timeline happened, but I would just read through all the characters, you know, boards. I'd read through the Yoshi boards and the Samus boards and the Falco boards, and, you know, try to figure out what all those characters are doing, how the game functions, how the physics work, all that kind of stuff. And so that was really cool. We're just improving, going to tournaments, all that. And so we ended up going to our first pro tournament. Well, at least my first pro tournament. My brother went to that tournament in Chicago, but I went to my first pro tournament, which was held in Lansing in Michigan, and there were tons of pros there. Ho Chi Minh Trail was there, and my personal hero, Dope, was there, who was considered to be like top 10 player in the world, maybe the best Falco in the world. Bomb Soldier was like probably the best, but he's in Japan. But Dope was amazing. I used to watch the Dope combo video like every day when I would wake up. Dope was there. I couldn't believe it. He was actually late to the tournament, which was funny. We actually postponed it till he got there. But it was like a rinky-dinky house tournament, but like a lot of Midwest pros actually came out and competed in the whole thing. And like, keep in mind, people weren't playing for thousands of dollars, not even hundreds of dollars. The prize for the tournament was Dope's old controller. So it was more of a smash fest than anything, but people took the tournament pretty seriously regardless. I actually got a chance to play Dope in tournament, and I took a game off of him. I took a game off of his Bowser on Rainbow Cruise. He wanted to just like mess with me a little bit, which was fun. Dope ended up winning his own tournament, if I recall correctly. Trail refused to go Ice Climbers at the tournament for whatever reason, but man, it was so cool. I got to meet players who were so much better than me, and you guys would look back on this. This is 2004. You guys would look back at this and think it's the worst Melee of all time. But even then, there were levels, you know what I mean? Like, I practiced every day for as long as I could, and I would do home run contests and practice my wave dashes, my wave shines, my pillar combos. And like, these players are miles better than me. It did not matter. It was so cool and inspiring to see other people who were also working hard and also achieving results in this space. It was just awesome. So we continued to grind. We found out more and more We ended up looking at, the top Melee players. We learned about Ken, PC Chris, Bomb Soldier, Isaiah, that whole thing. A lot of people talk about the documentary and how cool it must have been. I lived through it. I watched all those videos. I used to watch Captain Jack. He had like a sick Donkey Kong and a sick Link. He would do these like combos with like throws and a back air and a regrab. And it's like, man, I thought that Link and Donkey Kong were bad at this game, but this guy would destroy me. Of course, we know Captain Jack is a Sheik player, but he had amazing secondaries back in the day. Trust me. And so we continue going to tournaments. We, I think to this day, are undefeated at JFAX. I'm not sure about that, but I think we attended like 4 JFAXs in a row, and I think that we won every single one. So we're like pretty good in our little West Michigan local community or whatever. But like the big hitters, which we didn't even really know at the time, were kind of located on the east side of the state. We didn't participate in as many tournaments, but we definitely knew about some of the players back over there. So the game is awesome, couldn't be better. Grassroots community, this is what we do on the weekends, this is what we do for fun after school. It was just so cool because it was a social outlet, going out to meet people and talking to people and just communicating through the game. I was like 9 years old, and I would meet like a 12-year-old that I would never talk to at school or whatever, but like, oh my god, we're just connecting through the game, having a great time. Everything's great. And I'm really appreciative of my brother, who obviously 12 years older than me. He like had a car, would drive us to tournaments or Smash Fests all the time, had the connections to be able to talk to these people, always made sure that I was safe at events and was always with me. I hope it doesn't sound, by the way, this is just like a weird little quick disclaimer, but like if you're really that young in the Smash community, just make sure you have somebody looking over you, like literally a parent or a guardian, because obviously there's been some bad things that's happened in the Smash community, but if I didn't get into the Smash community, I don't know where I'd be in my life right now. So I just want everybody to have safe fun. And again, just shout outs to my brother for, looking over for me. He always made sure that I was in view and that I was safe. Because, at these house tournaments back in the day, everybody's drinking, everybody's going crazy, blah, 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 blah. But it could not be better. Things couldn't get any better until we heard about the new Super Smash Bros. Wow, it's gonna be even better than the last one because Melee was better than 64, so Brawl has to be better than Melee. It's gonna be like Melee with more characters. Something I like bringing up is Smash Dojo. Any old heads remember Smash Dojo? The website everybody checked after school. It is where official Nintendo website, where they release new characters. Character announcements were the most exciting things in the entire universe. New items, just information about the new game. It was so cool. People would talk about it on Smash boards every single day, trying to predict new characters. A certain character would come out. Like, it was, I can't even imagine. It was so cool. Like, thinking back on it, it's amazing. And if I recall correctly, the first time people got to touch Brawl was at an E3, and people had actually snuck in cameras and posted the footage on Smash boards. And the realization started sinking in that there's no L canceling and there's no wave dashing and characters are kind of floaty, and there's tripping, which doesn't really make sense. And we realized that Brawl had sort of been designed to take away the advanced techniques that we had used and loved so much about Melee that made it unique and interesting and creative and expressive, and kind of sap that all away, which was maybe the harshest realization that I had to come to as a kid at the time, is that this game is going to come out and it's not going to be anything like Melee. So this is something I like to look back on as well. So it's 2008 and the Wii had come out. I don't know if anybody remembers how hard it was to get a Wii. Maybe you do. Maybe some of your parents do if they were trying to get it for you as a present. Wiis were like a dime a dozen. You could not find one. It was crazy. So my family saw a stocking guy, like a guy that goes around and stocks all the aisles at like stores and stuff, sees him rolling in with a cart full of Wiis. My dad and my brother walk over there and they're like, yo, can we get some of these? Like, oh my god, we've been looking for these. And keep in mind, we still have faith about the game. Maybe when it comes out, it's gonna be better, or maybe we'll just get good in this new world. But regardless, the new game's coming out. Nobody even thought about Melee still hosting tournaments or anything after that. It was sort of everybody's focused on Brawl. So we got 3 Wiis, and we planned on being local TOs and throwing tournaments. My brother found a venue which was like a local theater. They were gonna let us host tournaments there. Turned out nobody was really that interested in Brawl. Brawl came out, and there were a couple local events that were really small, but Smash Fest had sort of died. Sometimes my brother and I would play Brawl, sometimes we would play through the story mode, which everybody loves. I would pick Charizard and do the rock smash on all the bosses because it would do 1 billion damage, which was fun, and it was like a nice casual game, but it wasn't Melee, and that was really tough because that was everything I had, right? I had like some small friendships through my school and stuff like that, but my social outlet, the thing that I enjoyed to do, the thing that I was passionate about, was Melee, and it was gone, which was really weird. So once we realized that the Melee community had sort of gone into a dark age and that we didn't really like Brawl that much, I had to find a different identity essentially. And so I started playing other video games because I just found that I was a gamer. I played World of Warcraft a ton, especially through that time period around 2008 through 2012 or 2013. I played League and other stupid games, all that kind of stuff. Never really got into other fighting games, but this was probably the hardest period of my life. And keep in mind, in 2008, how old was I? 13. So I'm like 13, and middle school came around and I got bullied really hard. Not just like a regular amount of bullying. I've talked about this maybe in other videos and a lot on my streams sometimes, but it was really bad. I would like get beat up at lunchtime. I had really terrible acne, so bad that I had to go on Accutane, which is like this acne medicine, dries out your entire body. It's fucked. But people would make fun of me for having like herpes every day because my acne was so bad. I grew out my hair because I wanted to, and everyone called me a girl and called me the F slur and shoved me. There were 7 class periods in my middle school, 7, where we went from class to class. And the bell would ring and I would despise it because it meant I had to go into the hallway and see everybody. It wasn't just the popular kids that were jerks that were bullying me. It was everybody. It was like a rite of passage. You bully Avery and like that's your life. So I would go through the hallways and I did not go a single class period without being shoved or being called a bitch or a girl or all that kind of stuff. It was awful. And I didn't have Melee to fall back on. Sometimes I'd go home and I had a lot of online friends in World of Warcraft, but they didn't really know I was like a 12 or 13-year-old kid or whatever. And so that was just really tough. And yeah, this is hard, which is okay. But I still think that being bullied, I haven't gone to a therapist about any of this or whatever, so this is all just, speculation. But I really do think that being bullied at the time sort of gave me a toxic relationship with validation that I still to this day don't think that I've necessarily come to terms with. I know a lot of people that knew me from like 2013 up until like maybe 2018 or something like that, knew me as this like kind of cocky, really egotistical guy, which really I was just putting on this front. My ego was there to protect this sort of relationship I had with validation, right? And I still think it comes out to this day, and it can be difficult having the platform that I have to listen to all the people who can be rude on the internet and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that time period really, I think, scarred me in a lot of ways. And it was really difficult, especially after such like what I consider to be, not that I didn't have my own challenges when I was a child, but I really thought I had a great childhood where, I had a great relationship with my family and my brother, and, I had a creative outlet and all that kind of stuff. And keep in mind, the next thing I'm about to mention doesn't necessarily have to do anything with Melee, but I promise it ties in. So I'm depressed. Everything is awful. I'm getting bullied every single day at school. I start intentionally failing all my classes because I just don't even want to be alive anymore. And then music was my savior. Like I said, I had to find an identity, and I found it in music. I just fell in love with it. I used to hate it. I would take like mandatory band classes. I hated it. It was like a chore. But I really found that it was something that I could connect with, which was really cool. And so I started practicing music every day, just like I used to practice Melee. And so that's just what I did. I still didn't do very well in my other classes because I just stopped trying, but music was the thing. So anyway, that'll become a thing in just a little bit. But then in around 2013, this is my senior year of high school, my brother told me about a tournament coming up and had told me that there have actually been tournaments going on again since like 2000 2010 or so, the scene has sort of been growing over time, which was interesting to me because, you know, Melee was like my first love. I'm like, oh my God, there's Melee tournaments going on? We would watch Genesis VODs and, you know, we heard about, you know, Zenith happening. But there were tons of huge tournaments happening. The gods have kind of established themselves. That entire era, I think a lot of people refer to it as like the golden era of Melee, or maybe people, the platinum era. I can't remember what people call this era of Smash. But we decided to go to a local tournament again, which I was like, this is sick. My brother and I take our family van. My brother's gonna drive me. I'm 17 at the time, and we're gonna go to a tournament. This is crazy. The last time I went to a tournament when I was like 12, I think. So it was about a 5-year gap where I stopped playing Melee completely. But we go to Sweet 12, which happened in March of 2013. And Mutaking was there, which was so cool. I got to see Mutaking play in person, who ended up winning the tournament. But it is also the first time that I met KJH. I say met. He's a decently quiet guy. So am I. I just saw him from across the room. He was like this incredibly swag guy. He had like a camo jacket. He looked so sick. And he was doing crazy things. He has this really famous combo he did against Mutaking at that tournament, which was really cool. But anyway, so Sweet 12 was the first tournament that I had back into the scene. I ended up getting second in the amateur bracket. I actually entered the tournament as Cow with a question mark. I thought everybody would say Cow, but everyone just said Cow. Come to the TO desk. And I realized that I did not like that tag. But my brother's tag was BBQ, and he got that from the in-game generator for all the tags. And I just thought Cow was funny, and it was an in-game generator tag. Ended up not working very well. But our love for Melee had been rekindled. It was awesome. Since that time in March of 2013, it's now January 6th, 2022. I don't think I've taken more than a month off of playing Melee. I think I've played Melee without taking an entire month off in this entire time period. So yeah, I worked hard and I'd still practiced the game a ton. And then we ended up going to our first national, which was Big House 3. I walk in the venue, I open the elevator, Hungrybox walks out. I'm like, oh my God, Hungrybox is right there. You know, Mutaking ends up winning the tournament, the Return of the King, legendary tournament. Streams are pretty big at this point. Everything's so cool. Melee's booming, you know. Big House was one of the biggest tournaments of all time. And Big House has a tournament series just growing, and it's in Michigan, which is where I am, which is awesome. And so I had a great time. Fun fact, by the way, about the Big House 3, I beat the Crimson Blur there. Can you believe it? I like bringing that up because I think it's just, it's silly. We also had a Link player from Pittsburgh in our pool. Oh God, Stro was his name. And I think Stro beat him too. Man, maybe Stro beat me. I don't think Blur or I made it out of pools if I recall correctly. So, we're having fun, we're practicing, we're going to tournaments, we're taking it seriously, everything's cool. Not everybody from the crew is back together, but my brother and I are going to crazy amounts of stuff. We find a local community, we find some people that are interested in playing, we start training them, everything's awesome, grassroots AF. And then I have to leave for college. And keep in mind, music was my passion, so I ended up going to Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, and I started studying music education. And I was away from my home scene, so I had to find the local community there, and I didn't even have a car, but I ended up finding a group of people, and their crew was called the Gentleman's Club, which is a dumb, silly name, but it was comprised of some of the most influential people in my Melee career, which is Blake, Zbet, Artificial Flavor, Rhythms. Am I missing anybody? I think that's everybody. So this is the Gentleman's Club. Listen, family, if you're listening to me, I'm sorry, but I skipped a lot of school and I would take trips over to Portage, which was the local, it was like the sister city to Kalamazoo. And I would go over to Blake's house with the crew and we would just grind games all day, or we'd just grind for a couple hours. But we would play until like 3 in the morning. We'd get home, my residence hall doors would be locked at the time because I got back so late, but it was so amazing. And Blake was incredible at the game. When I originally moved there, everybody in the crew was better than me. But as I improved, Blake and I had this really back and forth rivalry that was kind of at the heart of West Michigan for a really long time. Blake ended up kind of taking a step back from playing as much Melee, and I continued going, which is a little unfortunate because I think he could have been great. But regardless, the Gentleman's Club taught me so much about what I know about Melee today, how to combo with Falco, how to do more advanced things that I had even considered. And keep in mind, at this point, I'd been playing for I don't even know how many years. I mean, I could do the math, but I'm not even going to. It's 2014 at this time. But then summer comes around and I have to go back home. So I go back home to Holland, Michigan, which is where I'm originally from. And my brother started hosting Smash Fest regularly at his apartment. He would essentially just leave the door unlocked and people would walk in and out all day. It was called BBQ's Smash Dojo. And so it was one of the most fun summers of my life. I worked at Subway, which I hated, but I worked at Subway, and after work or on any of my days off, I just go there. That's what we do. We'd watch Smash tournaments, we'd show each other music, we'd go get food, we'd order food in, we'd go out for walks together, we'd talk about life, all that kind of stuff, everything. I met some of my favorite people from there. One of my longtime training partners, Tran, who I have to shout out in a video like this, I met at my brother's, Smash Fest place. And it was just nonstop. We'd play 10 hours of Melee a day, 14 hours of Melee every day. Like, we would form crew battles in here. Like, it was clear the scene was growing. We ended up having a watch party for EVO 2014. It was just amazing. So cool. I miss that place, honestly. But yeah, and I had gone back. I was the best player in the region at the time now because I had learned so much while I was in Kalamazoo. But anyway, I went back to college, continued grinding the game, went to as many locals as I could. There were tournaments called Beach Houses, ran by Beach, or Tremor, he was known at the time. There ended up being Beach and Bi-Weeklies, Bi-Weeklies, U-Memes, Sweets. I'm sure people have heard about the Sweet series, one of the most legendary tournament series that happens in the Midwest. And this is where I really started forming friendships with people on the PR that were helping me improve really consistently. Not just people within my local community that I thought were good, but people that had gotten big time results, like KJH and Tremor. First time I met KJH was at a beach house tournament. He was on a setup with Juggle Guy, and I walk over and I'm so nervous, and I'm like, hey, can I join the setup? And they were like, yeah, sure. And they kind of knew me. I was like the Falco guy that kind of goes 2-2 or whatever. And I'm like, God, I'm gonna get my ass whooped. And I win the first game against Kalindi, and then Juggle Guy it's his turn in the rotation, and I beat Juggle Guy for the first time, and I'm like, no way, I'm beating these guys. I can't believe it. They end up destroying me throughout the session, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm not so terrible at this game. This is really cool. But I do think that me doing kind of decently in that session was sort of wow, this guy's got potential. I'm sure that they thought maybe at least a little something like that. And skip forward to 2015, in August of 2015, leading up to Big House 5 was Body City 3, and this is a random local / regional tournament that I'm sort of mentioning. But it was a big moment for me because I took a game off of S2J and I took a game off of Duck. S2J, one of the best players in the world at the time. Duck, probably somewhere top 30 at the time, maybe even top 20, I'm not exactly sure, but definitely the best in Michigan. And I made top 8. Kalindi and I had a really good set. I ended up losing, but man, that tournament was awesome, and it was right before Big House 8. Or not Big, did I say Big House 8? Why did I say that? Sorry, Big House 5. FC Return happens. Which FC, the tournament series, is one of the most legendary Smash tournament series out there. And FC Return happens, and I'm so excited. I get to go to an FC. That's crazy. And so I end up going. I do kind of poorly in pools. I had to play against Nintendo. I ended up going Fox. I ended up losing, but I got my first top 100 win. Can you believe it? I beat Dark Atma. It's funny. I was actually really good against Sheik at the time because I had played so much with Tremor. Probably by now Beach, so I'm gonna call Tremor Beach. But I practiced so much with Beach, I had thought about the matchup so much that I fancy myself pretty good at the Sheik matchup. And so Dark Atma is playing against me. It's a best of 5, and it's in losers. And I ended up going up 2-0 against his Sheik, and then he goes Peach. And so I lose the game on FD, and I was like, okay, Peach on FD, that's kind of hard or whatever. But if I go Yoshi, he's probably gonna switch back to Sheik, I'll win. He stays Peach. He beats me again, and it goes game 5, it's last stock, I barely beat his Peach. First top 100 win, it was amazing. I just feel like that's a big moment in my career that I like mentioning. But anyway, an even bigger moment coming up, everybody. Big House 5. I don't know, a lot of people know me from my West Balls win that happened at Big House 7, but Big House 5, round 1, of round 1 pools, I have to play against Drugged Fox, who at the time was trending his way up to be a top 10 player in the world. I believe just like a couple weeks before, he beat Mango. And I think while he was beating Mango, this is a funny story, while he was beating Mango, I was losing to Beach in tournament, which was very funny. At Big House 5, I beat Drug Fox. Game 1, he goes Sheik, one of my most comfortable matchups. I beat him on Battlefield. Then he brings me to FD and goes Fox. And KJH and Tran are the only 2 people behind me watching. So he switches to Fox. He literally puts his like character select screen puck on Fox, and I turn behind me. And I see KJH and Tran, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to win. Because these are my 2 best matchups. This is awesome. I was afraid he was going to go Marth. I didn't know anything about Marth at the time. So I beat his Fox on FD, which is silly or whatever. And looking back, it's the best of 3 really early in the tournament. Who knows if he was ready for me, whatever. But it was huge for me. I get up, I'm like, let's go, boom. I shove my friend Tran back. I high five everybody in the venue. I literally call my family, and tell them about the amazing victory that I just got. Taffikins posts about me on Twitter, says Ginger the Falco from Michigan beats Drugged Fox in round 1 pools. It was like everybody was talking about it. It was so awesome. This is one of the biggest upsets seeding wise in Melee history. Literally. Drugged Fox gives me lessons now. I have more respect for Drugged Fox than I do most people in the Melee community. He is an absolute legend. Probably better than me at the game still to this day. He's just incredible. Who knows if I deserve to win or blah 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 blah. But I just felt like a legitimate player who's getting better and better and better and better, and I finally got that big win. And this is just like 2 months after I got my first top 100 win. So I think at that point, if you had heard about me, you knew I had potential. It was just so cool because if you really think about my career up to this point, all I have described to you is a grind over the course of literally starting the grind when I was 6 years old, playing every day. And I might not have had the immediate talent or the immediate skill. I might not have just like understood the game on some different wavelength than everybody else like Mango. But I put in the work over time and I got the results, which I just thought was so sick. And it culminating in that moment at Big House 5 was huge to me. So I end up dropping out of college in 2015. And it's essentially because I figured out that music education just was not what I thought it was, which is really unfortunate because, like I said, music had taken me out of that depressive state where I was lost with no real identity and no real friends to back me up at the time. So music was all I had. But now I sort of had this community again, and it was amazing. So I moved back home, and my parents start telling me, of course, like, you got to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. And that's a big thing to say to somebody who's like 19, maybe 20 at that point. And with Melee continuing growing over time, ever since I told you in 2012 or 2013, my brother was like, hey, look at this video of like Mango playing in Genesis or whatever, we're watching Zenith and combo videos. The community kept growing more and more and more and more. Streaming became a more and more regular thing. And I started really thinking about what I wanted out of my life and what I was passionate about. And I'm the kind of person where if I'm not doing something I'm passionate about, I don't think I can function. If I had to everybody brings this up, it's such a cliche, but if I had to work a 9 to 5 in some dumb office job, I would just rather not exist, literally. So if I'm doing my passion and that forces me to live in a cardboard box, so be it. So I decide I'm gonna work at Subway, build up money while I'm living at my parents' house, and I'm gonna grind my ass off at Subway making money so that I can, 1, buy a streaming computer, and then 2, move to be closer to the good Smash scene on the east side of the state, with the target being Brighton. It's 30 minutes away from Ann Arbor, 45 minutes away from Detroit, 30 minutes from Lansing, literally dead center in the Smash community. It's awesome. So I work 70 hours a week at Subway, and I grind until I have enough money to where I can move out. I finally had enough money, and I was ready. So I go out to Brighton to sign my lease on this new apartment that I'm gonna have. I'm actually moving in with Beach, who has been my longtime training partner and also my doubles partner. So not only am I moving closer to the Smash community, I'm literally living with somebody I met through the Smash community. And I'm over there, and I think I stay there for a couple days or whatever, so I can sign a lease and go to a couple tournaments. So while I was living at home, I was living at home even when I went over to go sign the lease, my mom comes into my room and she says, hey, I've been having a hard time spelling things, I think. Tell me to write something down real quick. She has a note card and a pen. And I'm like, okay. The cat went to the store to buy some milk. I literally think that's the sentence I said. And she writes it down, and she turns it over, and she says, "Is that right?" And it was just a jumble of letters. Insane. I'm like, "No, that's not right at all. You're joking, right?" She's like, "No, like, what do you mean?" And I was like, "Something is wrong. You need to go to the hospital." And my mom was a nurse, and she was like, "I'm not going to the hospital." My mom was like, if I wasn't dying, she's not going to send me to the hospital. So she's like, "We'll see what happens, and maybe I'll have to go to the hospital." So anyway, I'm over there signing the lease, and I get a call from my dad, and he says to me that my mom has stage 4 brain cancer. And I didn't know anything about the stages of cancer. I thought maybe like stage 4 out of 10. Maybe they can that doesn't sound so bad. So if any of you guys know anything about cancer, stage 4 is like the final stage of cancer. And it's really bad, and they're gonna have to do brain surgery on my mom. And they say that they're gonna be able to get some of the tumor. It's glioblastoma, by the way. They're gonna be able to get some of the tumor, but it'll grow back, and eventually it'll kill her, which is unfortunate, to say the least. And this is while I'm like over on the east side of the state, ready to move away from my family. And so I end up having a talk with my mom, because what do you do in that situation, right? It's like, do you stay with your mom, who probably has like a year to live or whatever, or do you move and you pursue your dreams because this is like the thing that you've been working towards? And I don't have a correct answer for you, but I had to talk with my mom about it. And she told me that she wanted me to pursue my dreams, essentially. And if I was really passionate about this, that I should do it. And so I did, which, again, I don't have the correct answer. I have a lot of regrets about not being there as much as I could have been. And that's hard for me. So I moved to the east side of the state. That was just a really hard year on me because, my mom's slowly getting worse. And, things got stressful for me financially because I moved away from home. I live in a more expensive area. I'm paying rent now. I'm only working part-time at Subway so that I can stream in my off time, so I can build a community and get my name out there. And eventually I end up quitting Subway and going full-time in just Melee and streaming. But then in June of 2017, my mom passed away, which was and is one of the hardest things, maybe the worst thing that's happened in my life. And yeah, I don't know. Just to say a couple things about my mom. I always say that the greatest gift she gave to me was that when she was literally on her deathbed, I would come over and she had a really hard time forming sentences because like the tumor on her brain was like on the part of her brain that like processed language and all that kind of stuff. So she couldn't really like talk to people very well, but she could understand a bit. And every time I would walk through the door, and she didn't do this for everybody, but every single time I walked through the door to come visit her, she would smile and her eyes lit up and she was happy to see me. And just knowing that she remembered who I was and that she still loved me and all that stuff, and she wasn't mad at me for doing all this, it just meant a lot. And I even have like this video I showed my stream recently where she like tells me that she loves me. She's cheering me on at a tournament and stuff like that, even though she's quite literally bedridden. So I don't know. I just know that she cared about her kids, and it was hard to see her go. That sort of pushes me, because I know that this is, even now that my mom is gone, this is something that I know that she would want me to do because she told me, So anyway. Now that we're out of that, I'm going to keep you guys in more despair for a sec. This doesn't have to do with my mom, okay? A little bit of a breather, coming up for a little bit of air. But I might be the most losingest player of all time in Melee, which is one of the longest running esports out there. I may have lost more sets than anybody, maybe lost more friendlies than anybody. I've been playing since 2003, and I have entered almost as many tournaments as I possibly could have. I have put in maybe some of the most hours of all time. People talk about like Cody and Zane grinding these days, which is cool, but I've been playing for 14 years almost at this point. And so along with losing that much comes a lot of despair. I say despair, and it sounds dramatic, but for anybody that's been where I've been, I know you're out there, okay? You lose a tournament set and it feels like your world is crumbling. Why do you spend so much time on this thing? It's just a video game. Why do I care so much? Like, I could have been doing other things, blah, 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 all this stuff. And people often ask me, have I ever considered quitting before? Or they're like, Ginger, I'm thinking about quitting Melee. Like, have you ever thought about quitting? Like, how do you get through it? And I always say, I've considered quitting more times than you've even played the game, which is an exaggeration. But trust me, it's just like, I said this to Scar recently at Summit. I said, when does all of this suffering just stop? When do I get to be the best? When am I the champion? When do I just never lose? And he's like, I don't know if it ever stops. And recently on Twitter, IBDW said, I don't care if I become the best player in the world. I just care that I go down in history as a hard worker, which is awesome. I want my career to be defined by perseverance. I think that I have earned that. You know, there are things I haven't even mentioned that were awful in my life, obviously. Relationships that went awful and, you know, tortured my brain. You know, when I moved to the east side of the state, I moved away from a long-time relationship so that I could go pursue my dream. And that affected things really negatively. But these are the sort of sacrifices I had to make in order to continue pursuing this game. And so through all of the loss, I just want my career to be defined by perseverance. Keep in mind that when I mention, you know, I've been playing for 14 years and all that, I'm not the best in the world. People say Mutaking's been playing for a long time, and so maybe he has more losses. Somebody brought this up to me. That guy got to win things. He's been winning everything. He got to go to travel to so many tournaments and win. He wouldn't drop a set. I usually drop 2 sets at every tournament I go to. So I don't know, this might sound like me complaining, but I just want you to know that, like, you can push through loss, okay? And come out better on the other side, because let's get into the good stuff. Here are some of the accomplishments I've made throughout the course of the last couple of years. I think they're cool to look back on. So in 2017, I debuted at 49th on the top 100, which was one of the highest debuts of anybody outside of the original top 100. I don't think it was the highest, but it was darn close, if I recall correctly. And I beat Wes Balls at the Big House 7, who I believe at the time was ranked somewhere in the top 10, which was huge for me. A gigantic moment in my career. I actually also went on to beat some other people at that tournament that were also very good, and actually placed pretty decently. In 2018, I went to number 40 on the top 100, and I got voted into my first ever Smash Summit. Literally, the community that I've loved over the course of my entire life voted me into this amazing, prestigious event at Smash Summit 6, and I had so much fun. This was the Smash Summit where I had blue hair and played Mafia, and we all know how that went.
This guy is either a town or a fucking legend.
And then in 2019, I started taking Drug Fox lessons, which has helped me continue improving to this day, and went to number 21 on the top 100, which is huge. All of this through constant loss. I'm just taking the losses, taking the punches, getting up, and improving, and consistent improvement throughout my career. I even, on my local state's PR, I went from an honorable mention to 9th to 7th to 5th to 3rd, and then I sat at 3rd for about a while because we're Duck and KJH in my region. Okay, they're amazing players. And then eventually I was ranked 1st in the region for the first time, I believe, in 2019. So through all of this, hard work and dedication, you know, practice and analysis, all of this stuff, you know, the grind is what kept me in it and kept me improving all throughout. And in 2020, I was considered one of the most winningest players of the online era. I was number 1 on Smash Ladder when Smash Ladder on delay-based netcode was actually a thing. I was number 1 for, I think, like a year or a year and a half straight in the online era. And then in 2021, last year, I won my first major tournament. Literally, the kid that got Melee for Christmas in 2001, his first tournament was an anime convention in 2003, literally didn't know advanced techniques until that point. In 2021, won their first major, and were also signed to a major organization. Now I'm a sponsored player for Luminosity Gaming. I've won a major tournament. I'm considered to be somewhere around top 10 in the world, continually improving, and it has been an insane journey. I've been meaning to make this video for so long because, like I said, I feel like people don't know this about my career, and hopefully it's inspirational in some way. Maybe it's sad in some way. I don't know. But thank you guys for listening to my story, and I'm gonna keep trying to improve. My goal is to be the best player who's ever lived, and I think over time I can do that, and I appreciate any support that I've gotten along the way. So again, thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you all in the next video, okay? See ya.